I'm Hannah Reed, 27 years old, and for the past 3 years, I've been raising my sister's kids like they're my own. I moved in after my bakery went under, hoping to get back on my feet. Instead, I found myself packing school lunches and folding laundry that wasn't mine. Most days, I worked mornings at a coffee shop and took online design classes at night, squeezing in assignments between dinner and diaper duty. My sister Megan worked overnights, and her boyfriend Cody mostly sat on the couch or cracked jokes while I cleaned their mess, the day she told me she was pregnant again with her 5th child. I stood there staring at the pile of dishes and thought, this is the end of the line for me. Before I go any further, let me know where you're listening from in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt like you were doing everything for someone who wouldn't lift a finger for you. I grew up in a small town where neighbors waved from their porches and you helped without being asked. Our parents weren't wealthy, but they taught us that kindness mattered more than money. My sister Megan was the oldest, always the loud one, the wild one. I was quieter, more careful. I baked pies for the church and saved for years to open my own storefront. It was nothing fancy, a little brick shop with my name on the window, Hannah's Hearth. But when a chain bakery opened 2 blocks down, I couldn't compete. I sold everything to cover debts and moved into Megan's spare room, just until I figured things out. Her place was louder than I remembered, kids bickering. Cody watching TV on full-volume dishes in the sink. Megan worked nights at the grocery warehouse and slept most of the day, so I started picking up the slack. It was just small stuff at first. School, drop-offs, reheating, leftovers, homework, help. But small things have a way of becoming everything before I knew it. I was setting alarms at 5:30, brushing Lila's hair, packing Emma's lunch, reminding Brady not to forget his inhaler, and asking Tyler to keep his music down at breakfast. My coffee shop job paid just enough to keep my phone on, and my car gassed up between shifts. I'd squeeze in online classes, trying to build towards something better. I wanted to be a designer, not just someone's backup plan. Rachel, my best friend from college, kept reminding me that I had talent, that I could build a real future if I just carved out some space for myself. But space was the one thing I didn't have in that house. It didn't matter how hard I worked. I was always one request away from wiping someone's nose or driving across town for another field trip. Permission slip. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that Megan would pull it together, that Cody would help more once he got promoted. But nothing changed. I was the constant, the default parent, the one who bought school supplies with the last of her savings, the one who stayed up with Lila when she had the flu and didn't tell anyone how close she came to collapsing from it all. Then one night, Megan burst through the door, beaming Cody trailing behind her with a pizza box. She clapped her hands together and said, "Guess what? I'm pregnant again." Baby number 5. I didn't say anything at first, just stared at her. Then at the kids gathered on the couch, all waiting for me to clap too. I didn't clap. I stood up, walked to my room, and shut the door. I knew then something had to change. I didn't come out of my room until the house was quiet again. I waited until the lights were off and the pizza box had been tossed half shut on the counter. Megan's big news still echoed in my ears, and I couldn't sleep. The idea of a 5th baby on top of everything else made my chest feel heavy. I'd already stretched my time, my energy, and the last of my savings trying to hold everything together in this house. I knew I couldn't keep going like this, but I didn't know yet how to say it out loud. The next morning started the same as always. My alarm went off at 5:30. I rolled out of bed and stepped into the routine that had swallowed my days. Tyler and Emma were already fighting over cereal. Brady was looking for a clean shirt, and Lila tugged at my sleeve asking for her braids. I moved through it all, checking lunchboxes, wiping spilled milk, and getting everyone out the door before heading straight to the coffee shop. I took orders until my feet ached and my head buzzed. Then came home, cooked dinner, and sat down for my design classes after everyone was in bed. Megan was gone most evenings before I finished cleaning the kitchen. She worked overnight shifts with Cody at the supermarket across town. Most nights I caught a glimpse of her as she came in, kicked off her shoes, and collapsed onto the couch without much more than a quick thanks for everything. That was the rhythm. That was my life. One night, as I loaded dishes into the sink, Megan walked in with Cody behind her. He looked pleased with himself, carrying a takeout bag like it was some kind of prize. Megan sat down at the table and waved me over with a big smile. "We've got something else to tell you," she said, her voice bright. I stood there drying my hands. "We were thinking," she went on, "with the baby coming, we're going to need more help around here." Cody leaned back in the chair, nodding like this was all a foregone conclusion. "You're so good with the kids," he added. "You've already got the rhythm down. What if you focused on them full time?" Megan nodded. "You could quit the coffee shop and just be here. Really be present. Help with school stuff, pickups, meals, everything." I blinked. "Quit my job?" Cody shrugged. "It's not like it's a career or anything. And you live here rent-free. It kind of makes sense." Megan added quickly. "We were thinking maybe you could pitch in $300 a month toward rent, just until things settle down. I mean, we all have to do our part." I stared at them. My coffee shop job barely covered gas and my phone bill. The little I had left each month had been going straight into school supplies, asthma inhalers, and the grocery runs Megan forgot. I took a breath, steadying myself. "I already do everything I said. I take care of the meals, the school runs the appointments. I'm in classes. I can't quit my job." Megan's expression changed. Her smile disappeared. "You're eating our food, using our electricity. You can't live here forever and not contribute." Cody leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "It's just temporary. We'll figure it out after the baby's born." I pushed my chair back and stood. "I need to think," I said quietly, and walked out of the room before my voice broke. The next morning I called Rachel while the kids were at school. I stepped out to the backyard, wrapped in my coat phone pressed to my ear. "They want me to quit my job and pay rent?" I said, keeping my voice low. Rachel didn't pause. "They're using you, Hannah. This is beyond helping. They're expecting you to give up your life for theirs." I sat down on the porch steps, rubbing my hand over my face. "They act like I'm just part of the household," I said, "like I signed up for this." "You didn't," Rachel said. "You came to reset your life, and they've trapped you." Her words stayed with me as I walked back inside. Megan had left a list on the counter, grocery items, notes about Emma's upcoming dental appointment, a reminder to send money for Brady's soccer field trip. Cody was in the living room, half asleep on the couch. I looked at the list, and then at my backpack sitting by the door, half zipped with my laptop inside. Over the next few days, the pressure only got worse. Megan cornered me in the hallway, asking if I'd made a decision. "You're already with them all day," she said. "This just makes it official." Cody joked that I could sell off the bakery mixer I had in storage for some quick cash. "You're not using it," he said with a grin. That evening, I overheard Tyler muttering in the hallway, "She does more than Mom ever has." I pretended not to hear him, but something in my chest tightened. Later that night, as I cleaned up after dinner, Emma stood at the counter with her math homework. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly. "You've been kinda quiet." I nodded, rinsing out a pot. "Just thinking about a lot of stuff." She didn't push. She just stayed there until I was done, then followed me into the living room to help fold laundry. By the weekend, I'd pulled up a few rental listings online. The prices made my stomach turn. Studios downtown were starting at $1,500 a month. My savings, what little was left from the bakery, could barely cover a deposit and the first month, but I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. At dinner that Sunday, Megan slammed her fork down. "I don't understand why you're being so selfish," she said. "We need help. This isn't about you chasing some hobby." I looked at her, then at Emma beside me, frozen mid-bite. "My design classes aren't a hobby," I said. "They're my future." Megan laughed bitterly. "Your future. You're living in my house, remember?" I stood up slowly, taking my plate to the sink. "I've given 3 years to this house. I'm not your live-in help." She stepped closer, her arms crossed. If you're not all in, maybe you shouldn't be here at all." I turned away and walked to my room, closing the door with shaking hands. That night I called Rachel again. She said if I'm not all in, I should leave, I told her. Rachel's voice came through steady. "Maybe she's right. Maybe it's time you did." And for the first time since I moved in, I let myself picture what that could look like. Not in some far-off dream, but now, soon. The next few days passed in a fog. I woke early, like always packed lunches, braided Lila's hair, and scraped cereal off the counter before driving the kids to school. At work, I poured coffee for strangers, smiling through the dull ache behind my eyes. After my shift, I picked everyone up, helped with homework, started dinner, and cleaned again after everyone had eaten and wandered off. By the time I sat down at my laptop for my night classes, I barely had the strength to keep my eyes open. I tried watching a logo tutorial twice and still couldn't tell you what it was about. One night, Emma came into my room just after 11. I'd fallen asleep in my chair with my laptop open on my knees. She stood there in her pajamas, fidgeting with the sleeve of her shirt. "You look really tired," she whispered. I nodded and smiled, not knowing what else to say. She walked over and gave me a quick hug before slipping back down the hall. I sat there a while longer after she left, staring at my sketchbook. It had been weeks since I'd drawn anything beyond stick figures for Lila's spelling tests. Everywhere I turned, someone needed something. Tyler had soccer practice. Emma had a recital. Brady needed a model volcano by Friday, and Lila's asthma prescription was due for refill again. Megan still worked nights, and Cody was either gone or lounging around with the TV too loud. I was the one rearranging my schedule, emailing teachers, scheduling checkups, covering last-minute projects. I wasn't their parent, but that didn't seem to matter anymore. I opened my bank app one night and stared at the balance. The little I'd saved from the bakery, just over $3,000, was trickling away. School supplies, over-the-counter meds, groceries when the fridge was bare. Megan paid the rent sometimes late, but left everything else hanging. Cody never offered to help, even when he picked up extra shifts. "You're so good with them," Megan said once when she caught me folding a load of Brady's laundry. She said it like it was a compliment. Like being good at holding things together meant I should keep holding them, no questions asked. That night, I called Rachel again. I stood in the kitchen while the kids watched a movie in the other room. "I'm drowning," I said. "I can't keep doing this." Rachel didn't try to comfort me. She just told the truth. "You're not their mother, Hannah, and if you don't stop now, they're going to let you carry this forever." Her words stayed with me. I started noticing things more clearly after that. Megan slept through the kids' fights in the morning, even when they shouted loud enough to shake the hallway. Cody would nod off in the recliner while I cooked and helped with homework. When Megan was home, she'd talk about how hard her shift had been, then leave me to clean up the dinner I made. One evening, I stayed up late after everyone had gone to bed and looked through apartment listings again. Nothing was cheap. A studio near the bus line was listed for $1,500 plus deposit. I started doing the math. My job brought in just under $1,800 a month if I worked 30 hours. Rent, food, gas, barely enough if I stretched it. I'd have to put design classes on pause, maybe just for a month or two, but I could make it work. The next day, I sat down with Tyler in the living room while the younger kids played in the backyard. I pulled out a notebook. "I need to talk to you about something," I said. "If I move out, I need to know you can help your siblings with the basics just until your mom figures it out." His eyes narrowed. "You're leaving because of her, aren't you?" I didn't answer right away. I need space to figure out my own life. "But I'm not abandoning you." He didn't respond, but he didn't argue either. I showed him how to check Lila's inhaler, how to pack a simple lunch, how to reset the fuse box if the kitchen light blinked out again. He scribbled notes but kept glancing toward the backyard. Later that night, Emma came into my room again. This time she didn't say much. She just stood in the doorway holding a drawing she'd made. It was a stick figure of the two of us sitting side by side. "Are you moving out because we're too much?" she asked. "No," I said. "I just need my own place." She nodded slowly, then stepped forward and hugged me, quiet tears soaking into my sweater. With Brady and Lila, I waited until breakfast the next morning. I stirred pancake batter while explaining I might live somewhere else soon. Brady asked if someone else would take him to science club. Lila looked up from her cereal and asked if I'd still braid her hair. I told them I'd still visit, still help, just not from inside that house. They didn't say much after that. By the end of the week, I'd toured 2 studios. One was above a nail salon. The other had a tiny window facing an alley, but the rent was just within reach. I narrowed it down to that one. I'd keep my job at the cafe, cut all non-essentials, and hold tight to what was left of my savings. One evening, I stood by the washer showing Tyler how to load towels and measure the detergent. He watched carefully, then asked, "Why does Mom never do this?" I didn't answer. I just handed him the bottle and stepped back. Emma had started helping Lila with bedtime stories. Brady reminded me that he had a quiz coming up and wanted me to quiz him one more time before I left. I hadn't told Megan yet, but the tension was building. She saw me checking my phone more often, noticed the quiet packing the distance. "You're acting weird," she said one morning, catching me scrolling through listings. I didn't look up. "Just planning," I said. She scoffed and muttered, "Planning to bail on us. Typical." I didn't respond. I couldn't argue anymore. That weekend, Rachel texted to check in. "You're doing the right thing," she wrote. "Don't let her guilt trip you. You're not the villain for saving yourself." I read that message 3 times before putting my phone down. I wasn't just leaving a house. I was leaving behind years of being invisible. And I was finally stepping into a life that was mine. I toured my last apartment on a Tuesday morning while the kids were at school. It was nothing special. 1 room, a narrow kitchen, and a window that looked out onto a cracked alleyway, but it was quiet. No toys on the floor, no TV humming in the background, no one yelling from the other room. The landlord gave me a number that made my chest tighten, but I nodded like I could handle it. I stepped into the center of the room and just stood there, imagining where my desk would go, where I'd hang my whiteboard, where I'd finally sit and design without someone calling my name from the hallway. Back at Megan's house, I kept my plans to myself. I packed small things, books, chargers, my sketchpad quietly, and tucked them into the back of my closet. Megan didn't seem to notice. She was too busy napping on the couch after her shifts or talking to Cody about the baby name list taped to the fridge. I wanted to tell the kids first. I didn't want them hearing it from someone else. After dinner one night, I pulled Tyler aside. Emma was helping Brady with a puzzle on the floor, and Lila had already curled up with her blanket. I handed Tyler a fresh notebook. "If I move out, I need to know you can handle a few things I said." His face tightened. "So it's really happening?" I nodded. "I'm not walking away, but I won't be in this house every day anymore." He didn't say anything at first. I showed him how to plan simple meals, pasta sandwiches, scrambled eggs, and how to refill Lila's inhaler prescription at the pharmacy. He listened, jaw clenched, writing everything down like he was studying for a test. Later that evening, Emma found me folding towels in the laundry room. She stood in the doorway, holding the drawing she'd made earlier that week. "Is it because we're too much?" she asked, her voice small. I shook my head. "It's not you. I just need my own space to grow." She didn't reply, just walked over and wrapped her arms around my waist. I held her there for a long time, the hum of the dryer, the only sound in the room. Brady and Lila were harder. They didn't understand logistics. They just knew I'd been there every morning and every bedtime. Over breakfast the next day, I told them gently that I might be moving to a new place. "Who's going to help with my science project?" Brady asked, poking at his cereal. Lila stared at me across the table. "Will you still braid my hair?" I nodded and said, "I'd still come around, still be nearby, still love them the same." They seemed to accept it, but their eyes followed me all day. Over the next week, I visited 2 more apartments, but none felt as right as the quiet studio near the bus line. I made my decision and circled back to the landlord. The rent was $1,500. My bakery savings could cover the deposit and 1 month, and if I picked up extra shifts at the coffee shop, I could scrape by. The night before I was set to sign, Rachel called. I told her I was going through with it. "You're taking control," she said. "That's the difference this time." Her voice gave me a bit of strength. I spent the next few days quietly preparing the kids. I taught Tyler how to use the washing machine, showing him where to pour detergent and how to sort towels from jeans. He muttered, "Mom never does this." I didn't answer. Emma helped Lila more and more, zipping backpacks, laying out clothes at night. Brady asked what day I'd visit first. Lila kept whispering, "Don't go far." When I finally signed the lease, I didn't tell Megan right away. I packed 1 box, just a few things, a sketch pad, my laptop, a change of clothes. I hid it behind my desk. I wasn't trying to sneak out. I was trying to protect my peace until it was time. The day after the lease was signed, Megan caught me looking at a receipt for a moving supply store. "What's this?" she asked. I looked at her calmly. "I signed a lease. I'm moving out next week." She blinked. "So you're really doing it?" Just walking away, I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. That evening I sat outside after everyone had gone to bed, listening to the quiet hum of the neighborhood. I opened my sketch pad and started outlining a logo for a local food truck I'd been thinking about pitching. It was the first time I'd drawn something for myself in weeks. I wasn't just moving out, I was moving forward. The morning I moved out was quiet. I waited until after I dropped the kids at school, then came back to pack the last few things, my laptop, some clothes, and the drawings Emma had made me over the years. I didn't expect Megan to be home, but she was. She sat on the edge of the couch, with her arms crossed, watching me move back and forth through the hallway. "So that's it," she said, not looking up from her phone. "You're just going to leave everything behind." I didn't answer right away. I folded my coat, slid it into the duffel, and zipped it shut. "I'm not leaving the kids," I said, "but I can't stay here." She didn't say anything after that, just shook her head and went back to scrolling. The studio felt smaller than I remembered during the tour, but it was clean, and it was mine. I set up my desk by the window, unpacked my sketchbooks, and hung a small corkboard on the wall. There was nothing fancy about the space, just a mattress, a table, and 1 chair. But I stood in the center of the room and let myself breathe. I sent a quick text to Tyler, Emma, and Brady, letting them know I'd call later that night. Lila was too young to have her own phone, but I told Tyler to give her a hug from me. Then I plugged in my laptop and sat down to sketch, just to see what it felt like to create without someone knocking on my door or shouting from the hallway. 3 days later, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me to answer. "This is Officer Dixon with the Madison Police Department," the voice said. "Are you Hannah Reed?" I stood in the middle of my kitchen, heart thudding. "Yes, this is Hannah. We've received a report from your sister Megan Reed alleging property damage and theft. We'd like you to meet us at her residence to clarify some details." I drove over with my mind spinning. When I pulled up, 2 officers stood near the front porch. Megan was there too, her face flushed, arms flailing as she talked. "She took $500 out of my dresser," Megan said as soon as she saw me. "And the washer's broken. She ripped the couch cushion too." I kept my voice steady. "I didn't take anything. I packed my things and left. That's all." Officer Dixon nodded. "We'll take a look inside." The officers followed Megan through the living room. She pointed at a worn spot on the sofa cushion and jiggled the washing machine's door, which didn't latch properly. Officer Benton knelt by the washer. "This wiring's old," he said. "Could be wear and tear." He ran a hand along the torn cushion. "This doesn't look recent." I stood off to the side, trying not to look at the kids peeking out from the hallway. Then Tyler stepped forward. He looked straight at the officers. "She's lying," he said. Megan turned toward him. "Tyler." But he kept going. "The washer broke weeks ago when Mom overloaded it, and the sofa's been like that since last summer. Brady spilled juice on it, and Mom tried to scrub it with a knife." The officers turned to Megan. "And the money." Tyler folded his arms. She spent it on groceries 2 weeks ago. I was with her at the store. Megan's face went still. You don't need to speak for her, she muttered. No, Tyler said. But someone should tell the truth. The officers exchanged a glance. Officer Dixon closed his notebook. Ma'am, false reports take up valuable time. We're going to leave it at that, but I'd recommend not calling again unless there's evidence. They stepped outside without another word. I followed them to the driveway. Officer Benton handed me a card. You're good to go, he said. As they drove off, I turned to Tyler. You didn't have to do that. He looked down at the sidewalk. I know, he said, but you didn't deserve any of this. I drove home in silence. When I got back to the studio, I called Rachel. I paced the kitchen while I told her what happened. She really tried to frame me, I said. She's unraveling, Rachel said. You're not responsible for how she handles losing control. That night I checked in with the kids. Emma sent a picture of her latest drawing. Brady asked if I could help him with his volcano project over video. Lila begged for a bedtime story, so I made one up on the spot about a ladybug who lived in a sunflower. It wasn't the same as being there, but it was something. I sat at my desk and opened a new client file. A small boutique downtown needed help rebranding their shopfront. I hadn't taken a paid job in months, but now I had space. I had time. I worked until midnight sketching rough ideas and layering typefaces. For the first time in a long while, my hands didn't shake. A week passed, then 2. The apartment started to feel like home. I hung Emma's drawing by the fridge and picked up a second chair from a thrift store so Rachel could visit. I focused on design work building a portfolio I could be proud of. Then, just as things were starting to settle, my phone buzzed again. It was Tyler. Mom's in the hospital, he said. It's something with the baby. They're keeping her for a while. I sat down slowly, letting the words sink in. The next morning, I drove to the hospital and found Megan in a bed near the window, pale and quiet. A nurse came by and explained she had placenta previa and would need to stay on bed rest until delivery. Megan didn't say much, just looked at me with tired eyes and said, "The kids need you." I nodded once. "I'll help, but only on my terms." The day after I visited Megan in the hospital, I picked the kids up from school. Tyler didn't ask any questions when he saw my car parked out front. He just nodded and got in. Emma sat quietly in the back, holding Lila's hand, while Brady kicked his backpack under the seat. No one said much on the drive home. The house felt heavier than usual. There were dishes stacked in the sink, laundry spilling onto the hallway floor, and 2 garbage bags near the back door that no one had taken out. Cody was nowhere to be found. I checked the fridge, made a quick dinner, and set up at the table to help Brady with his math homework. That night, I told the kids I'd be helping for a while, but I wouldn't be staying overnight. "I'll be here after work," I said. "We'll get homework done, cook clean up, and then I'll go home." Emma looked up. "Why can't you just sleep here like before?" I shook my head gently. "Because I have my own place now, but I'm still here for you." They didn't push. I think they understood in their own way. The next morning I checked in with Dr. Patel at the hospital. Megan was stable, but she'd be on strict bed rest for the remainder of her pregnancy, about 3 months. The baby was fine, but Megan couldn't manage the house or the kids without help. "I'll be there for them," I told Dr. Patel, "but I won't move back in." She nodded without judgment. "That's your call." Back at the house, I started organizing things. I gave Tyler and Emma a chore chart, dishes and laundry split between them. Brady and Lila helped with small things like setting the table and feeding the cat. "You're the team now," I told them one evening. "I'm just here to guide it." Cody drifted in and out that first week, but never really stayed long. He'd show up late, grab a drink from the fridge, then disappear into the garage. Tyler noticed. "He's been like this since Mom got sick," he said, wiping down the counter without being asked. I didn't respond. I just handed him the sponge and nodded. Rachel called one afternoon while I was helping Brady glue together a cardboard volcano. "You're doing too much again," she said. You said you had boundaries. It's just for 3 months, I told her. Then I'm stepping back. Rachel didn't sound convinced. Be careful, Hannah. She's going to lean hard when she gets out. The second week, Emma asked if I could help her with a class presentation. I said yes, but I reminded her I'd be going home afterward. Lila still asked most nights if I could stay, but she stopped crying when I said no. By the third week, I had a rhythm. Coffee shop shifts in the morning, errands during lunch breaks, afternoons with the kids, and evenings back in my studio to finish design work. I kept things short when Megan called from the hospital. I gave updates, passed the phone to the kids, and hung up. I wasn't interested in long conversations. One evening, Lila sat on the couch with Emma's old blanket wrapped around her legs. Cody said he was coming to my play, she said. But he didn't. She didn't cry, but her eyes were shiny. I sat beside her and pulled her close. Tyler was listening from the hallway. He always says he will, but he never does, he said. There wasn't anything to add to that. I cooked, cleaned, stayed late when one of the kids had a rough night, but I always went home. I made sure to check my bank balance, keep up with clients, and block out hours for design. I wasn't slipping this time. By the second month, the house was running more smoothly. Tyler handled grocery runs. Emma had started putting Lila to bed with stories when I wasn't there. Brady was proud of keeping his room clean without reminders. They still had questions, still missed their mom, still wondered when things would go back to normal. I'm scared she won't be the same, Tyler said one night while we packed lunches together. But I'm also mad. She was never really here even before she got sick. I nodded, placing a sandwich into a paper bag. It's okay to feel both. That night back in my studio, I sat at my desk and stared at my calendar. I had 2 new clients lined up and enough saved to get through the next few months without picking up extra shifts. I was tired, but I wasn't depleted. I was helping, but I hadn't lost myself. 3 months later, Megan was discharged. She held the new baby in her arms as I met her at the house. Tyler opened the front door for her. Emma ran ahead to make space on the couch. I stood near the kitchen and waited until things settled. I'm out, I said quietly. I'll still be around for the kids, but I'm done living in this story. Megan looked at me, her face unreadable. So you're just going to abandon us again? I shook my head. No, I've already given enough. You're their mother. Be that. She didn't answer. She just turned toward the living room and started rocking the baby. After Megan returned home with the baby, I stayed long enough to make sure the kids had what they needed. I showed Emma how to sterilize bottles and reminded Tyler to keep Lila's inhaler near her backpack. Then I left. I didn't linger or look back. The next afternoon, I called Rachel from the studio. It's done, I said. I'm out for good. There was a pause on the other end. Then she said, What now? I looked around my space. The sketchboard was full invoices stacked in a folder, and a half-finished logo waited on my screen. Now I said, I start fresh. I still wanted to be there for the kids, but without letting Megan pull me back in. I asked Rachel for a favor, something small but steady. Can you be their lifeline, I asked. If something comes up and I'm not around, would you check in? She agreed without hesitation. We set up a plan. I started sending her $50 a month from my cafe pay. It wasn't much, but it could cover school supplies or snacks or a surprise pizza night when the week got heavy. Rachel began visiting on Saturdays. She kept things light: homework help, movie nights, snack runs. Nothing official, just someone to lean on. I stayed in touch with the kids through video calls. Twice a week, I helped Tyler review his algebra homework while Brady showed off his science fair experiments. Emma loved sending photos of her latest drawings. Lila would press her face close to the camera and whisper, "Tell me a story." It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. I avoided Megan. I blocked her number after the last call ended, with her blaming me for everything that had gone wrong since I left. But I kept the door open for the kids. Rachel gave me updates. Megan lost her job at the call center after too many missed shifts. Cody packed up one night and left without saying where he was going. The neighbors have stopped coming around, Rachel said. I think people are tired of the drama. I felt the pull to jump in to fix what was falling apart, but I didn't. I sent Rachel a little extra when she mentioned groceries were getting tight, and I made sure the kids knew I was still here, even if I wasn't in the house. For Emma's birthday, I mailed her a sketchbook with colored pencils and a note that said, "Keep drawing what you feel." A week later, she sent a photo of us drawn in crayon labeled "Best Aunt." Brady called after he won third place at the science fair. I watched the video Rachel sent of him holding up a ribbon, grinning with his 2 front teeth missing. Lila asked for a story about a tree that talked to the wind. I made one up on the spot and told it over the phone while she curled up in her blanket. Tyler was quieter. He carried more than a teenager should. One night he texted me, "Mom's not really trying. It's mostly me and Emma now." I didn't know what to say right away. Then I wrote back, "Just focus on school. You're not alone, even if it feels like it." He replied with a thumbs up and a heart. By the end of the month, I'd landed a branding contract with a local startup. It meant long hours and late nights, but it covered rent and left enough to put some aside. I filled the corkboard with drafts, mood boards, and scribbled notes. My studio, once bare, was now layered with color swatches, client lists, and sticky notes with reminders like "breathe" and "submit invoice." One client sent me $500 for a full package, more than I used to make in 2 weeks of shifts at the cafe. I sat on the edge of my bed and let myself feel the weight of it. Not just the money, but the independence. Rachel called later that week. "Megan's been asking about you," she said. "Says you owe her." I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. I just said, "She doesn't get to say that anymore. I told Rachel to keep my number private. Only the kids should have it." I sent another $20 the following week after Tyler mentioned they were low on snacks. I didn't ask for thanks. Emma mailed me another drawing, this time of a house with a garden and a tiny figure at the window waving. I pinned it to the fridge beside my calendar. My world was small, but it was real. It was mine. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty for protecting it. The branding contract wrapped just after the holidays. I mailed the final design kit, invoiced the client, and tucked the payment into savings. My calendar was clean for the first time in months. No school runs, no hospital visits, no guilt-filled mornings trying to be in 5 places at once. Just quiet. I still talk to the kids. Tyler called when his midterm schedule got posted. Emma sent a photo of a scarf she knitted in home ec. Brady left a voicemail reading every ingredient on a snack label he'd memorized. Lila drew a family of clouds and asked if one of them could be named after me. Rachel dropped by my studio with a bag of coffee beans and a smile. "They're doing better," she said. "Tyler's stepping up. Emma's more confident. Megan hasn't called in a week." I nodded, setting out 2 mugs. I check in, but I don't check back in. She understood. We didn't say much more. Later that night, I walked down to the laundromat near my building. While the dryer rumbled, I sat on the bench and thought about everything that had led me here. How I lost a business, stepped into a house that wasn't mine, and tried to hold up a family that was never meant to rest on my shoulders. I'd been praised, used, leaned on, and blamed. But now I was still. I was free. I didn't regret loving those kids. I didn't regret helping when they needed me. What I let go of was the belief that being needed was the same as being valued. Megan had to figure things out now. I hoped she would. I hoped she'd rise to meet the kids where they were and stay. But it wasn't on me anymore. I'd already given what I had and then some. The kids knew where to find me. They knew I'd pick up the phone. But I'd done what I came to do. I was building something now. Not just a business, but a life that fit me. A life where I could sit with a warm mug in my hands, where my voice wasn't drowned out by someone else's chaos, and where my worth didn't depend on how much I could give without falling apart. We all reach a moment when we have to stop asking for space and start claiming it. Mine came later than I thought it would. But it came. And if you're listening to this wondering if it's too late to step out of someone else's shadow, it's not. It never is. Take your time. take your peace. Take your life back. If this story reminded you of someone or of yourself, I'd love to hear it. Feel free to share in the comments or just take a quiet breath and hold it for a while. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe. There's always another story waiting to be told.